Are stimulus checks going to be sent out immediately? I know many of you are wondering what's the status for fourth round of stimulus payments. Well, new information has just been released, everybody. I know many of you are hoping for another round of enhanced child tax credit law this year passed by congressional lawmakers. However, you might live in one of the many states making plans to send more money to families between this year and 2023. The last monthly child tax credit payment was disbursed in December, with the final check arriving after parents filed their tax returns this year. There is a Republican Senate proposal that would send up to $350 per child and includes a work requirement. The proposal for Mitt Romney will restart monthly payments for millions of people. But unlike previous stimulus efforts, Romney's plan, which is officially known as the Family Security Act, could put the work requirements in place for millions of recipients. The Family Security Act will provide monthly benefits of up to $350 a month for families with children 0 to 5, and $250 per month to those with children ages 6 to 17. The maximum monthly payment for families would be $1,250, and expectant parents would be able to apply for benefits to begin 4 months prior to their child's due date. In a statement, Romney said his act creates a new national commitment to American families by modernizing and streamlining antiquated federal policies. The biggest element of Romney's plan is the inclusion of work requirements for payment recipients. Details on the exact requirements were not included in the plan, but a common threshold for a state-level benefit is 80 hours a week a month, or a comparable amount of job training or volunteer change.
They do it with these stamp-sized computers powered by Bluetooth and attached to any product or packaging, from vaccines.
It allows us to measure the temperature, the location, the authenticity.
To zucchinis.
Each zucchini that goes into a crate joins a unique monitoring path.
Smart crates monitoring everything moving from farm to fork. Williot is working with label giant Avery Dennison, which is manufacturing millions of these tags and connecting them to the cloud so they can be tracked anywhere.
Now, a new budget model indicates that the White House $10,000 student loan handout will add $330 billion to the deficit. The figure is significantly more than the $305 billion the Budget Office estimates will be cut from the deficit over the next decade. That is because, under the new Inflation Reduction Act, which was signed into law, the president of a nonpartisan committee responsible for the budget told reporters that the president repeatedly talked about how much he cared about reducing the deficit, and they may now wipe out the amount of deficit reduction in a matter of minutes with a stroke of a pen. Early today, Biden announced plans to cancel $10,000 for borrowers, making $125,000 annually.
We will not be defaulting, and we will not be passing the hard rights extreme agenda, virtually no part of it. And that is thanks to the Senate and House Democrats and to President Biden. But don't just listen to me. The proof is in the pudding. House Democrats swept the vote, 34 to 117. A higher percentage and number of Democrats voted for this in the House than Republicans did. And it was just repeated in the Senate. Overwhelming majority of Senate Democrats voted for the bill. A majority of Republicans voted against it. And it's not just how Democrats carry the bill to the finish line, but why. Why'd we get more votes? We got more votes because the bill beat back the worst of the Republican agenda. This exercise was basically, this was an exercise in where the American people were at, and they're much closer to where we are than where they are. Of course, nobody got everything they wanted. There was give on both sides.
Hearings and public commitment. Still, payments are scheduled to resume in October, but still, with interest accruing again in September. And while the Education Department announced a 12-month ramp on payments after the repayment starts, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is worried. Folks, more and more checks are expected to arrive for the Americans throughout the summer and fall. Lawmakers are agreeing to provide the low income with extra financial relief, and relief may either be in the form of a one-time check or direct deposit. But now, 2 rebate checks are going to be for tax policies. These checks are typically sent out after individuals file their annual tax returns and determined to be eligible for a refund or credit. The specific eligibility criteria for tax rebates is depending on tax lawmakers and regulations in the country. A large number of states have announced they will be mailing and depositing relief checks for many residents. During the recently wrapped legislative sessions, the lawmakers agreed to send tax rebates to people in Minnesota. And now the rebates are $260 for individuals with AGIs very high, but $520 for couples who file jointly. People within those limits will get an additional $260 per dependent for up to 3 people they can claim. Rebates are expected to go out via direct deposit, and checks starting this fall too. It's important to note that the lawmakers and taxpayers who have to apply for these payments are going to get good money. Georgia has a very large budget surplus, and the latest report was more than $6 billion. As I was saying, to receive the funds, filers must have paid and filed taxes for the past 2 years, and according to a spokesperson, Georgia's Department of Revenue has already processed over 1.1 million total refunds. It totals about $257 million. If you haven't received your money yet, don't even worry. The Department of Revenue said the funds will go out over the next 8 weeks for those who filed by April 18th. Those who filed after the tax deadline will, of course, wait a little bit longer, as refunds will not be issued until one's tax returns have been processed. A Wall Street Journal analysis of Federal Reserve data reveals a concerning financial situation for people ages 30 to 39. The demographic accumulated nearly $4 trillion in debt during the fourth quarter of 2022. It reflects a substantial $140 billion rise from preceding the quarter. Now, according to Yahoo News, the mounting debt is indicative of broader economic challenges faced by the generations. The New York's Fed data reveals that millennials in their 30s are accumulating debt at a very high pace, which is starting to be alarming. New data have shown that 72% of U.S. millennials are actually in deep trouble, living paycheck to paycheck. More than 1/3 of Americans say there's still loans that prevent them from buying a home, because we all know that this is not the right thing to do. I also want to make another point on this important stimulus information, that a significant portion of the 22 to 37-year-olds surveyed revealed a concerning trend of retirement savings. It's according to the survey, a considerable number of respondents said that their monthly contributions to retirement savings were lower than the previous year.
Or debt on their credit cards, and there has been a huge jump in the number of people reporting they have signed up for SNAP food stamps or visited a food pantry in the past.
Folks, there's a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, and SSI and SSDI. So far, everybody, President Biden is saying that an urgent warning has been released to the federal government. The IRS has new information on how to receive stimulus. It may now affect your tax refund as well. Some of the low-income households will likely see their check amount decrease. The IRS has already released an urgent warning concerning how stimulus payments are impacting your tax refund amount for the year. This will matter when you file your taxes for the next year of 2023. The stimulus checks in 2021, alongside the expanded parent-child tax credits, enabled millions of Americans more cash back from the tax refunds. The taxpayers should know the refund amounts will not match the money they received before. If you also deducted charitable contributions without itemizing them on your taxes, you will likely see that the amount of money missing from your tax refund is big as well. It's because the IRS stopped a special recrisis era this year, so you cannot break a tax break for donations to charities if you claim the standard deduction. In 2021, filers could claim up to $300 for cash donations or $600 if you're filing jointly. The tax break did not get extended in 2022, so there will be no financial benefit when it comes to your tax return. Ultimately, the IRS is giving you a smaller refund check. The IRS also warned that the timeline may be a little bit off in 2023 when it comes to refunds.